If you look back on books 3 and 4 of the Farmhouse series, book 3 was the lab, book 4 was the mudroom, all we covered was the ground floor. And we never mentioned what was above it, and probably nobody paid any attention. Well, in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly what is above the lab and the mudroom, and what we did to it, and how we access that area. So as I had talked about earlier, that area that was the mudroom and the lab, that was a exterior house. Sometime, I think it was moved over in the 20s, maybe 30s. So anyway, it was attached to the kitchen, and you've already seen what we did to the first floor. But up above, this is what you would see if you went up there before we did any of the work. It was waist deep of stuff that was just tossed in. We never moved since 1856, so we have collected a lot of stuff. And it's just boxes of things, and you couldn't hardly walk through there. So first thing to do is clean it out. Now my SO and I, we spent 3 Saturdays taking everything out and categorizing everything, tossing and some of the stuff and saving others. And eventually we got down to the floor. So with that reasonably clean, what are we going to do with it? Well, first off, only half the room had a floor. Over the lab, all there was beams. Here you're looking up and you can see right up through to the roof. And so half the room had no ceiling. That was because that part of what we called the woodshed, that is now my lab, that was just for storing firewood. There was no floor and no ceiling. And it was floor to ceiling, solid cut up wood for winter. All we had was just pieces of board that we laid across. That's how we got up and down. It wasn't probably the most safe way of doing it, but I'd done that all my life, so it wasn't any big thing. So we set up a little pulley system and we started hauling stuff up and down as necessary. That's what that rope is. And there is a shot of me up on the section that has the floor. And the rest of it, you can see it's just all open. We got some recycled plywood. There was a roof that had 2 layers of plywood. And when that was taken down, I think it was the second layer was in pretty good shape. There was a little bit of water damage, but it was 3/4 plywood, and it was still in pretty good shape. So that got repurposed as floor. And you can see here that we're laying it down. And we got the chalk lines and screwing the floor down. And over in the corner, there's my SO peeking up to see what I'm doing. So what we were going to do all the way around the room was put in these little storage tables. And you can see that we started going all the way around. And also right there, where you can see where she is, we built a little trap door. So you set a ladder, crawled up, pushed the floor out of the way, and then you could access the room. And you can see we're rounding the corner and adding more of those little storage tables. Basically, we bought the 2x4s. We had scrap plywood, and as we got scrap plywood, we would fit it so that we weren't spending a lot of money on the storage. Now at the far end of the room, there was wires and stuff in the way. So the first thing to do was get those old storm windows out of there. Then the wiring had to be restrung so that it wasn't going to be in the way, so that we could go ahead and start putting in some multi-tier shelving. And there's just some various images of the storage shelves that we came up with. You can see we're a little shy on the one side there on the left, but that's because we didn't have any more scrap plywood, and eventually we got more and finished it all off. And then that's about the time these high output pedal lights came out. That seemed like a smart idea to put one of those in there so that we could see what we were doing. So at this point, all the storage shelves are done, and we can start putting stuff up above. except how are we going to get up there? Do we want to put a ladder every time we want to crawl up and raise the floor like you saw earlier? As you can see here, even though we had that big panel that flipped up, we only had a little bit of room between those joists. It spanned 3 joists, but you still only had the room in between just 2 of them. So we're going to come up with something a little better than that. So with that plastic ceiling all done that you saw me put in our lab, I decided to build a retractable hidden stairway. Now in this image you can see where the flip up hatch used to be. It's all covered up and you'd never know it was there. Starting on the left hand side of that hatch, we took down some of the ceiling, took down the insulation, and carefully installed a narrow fold down stair. When I say narrow, I mean we special ordered it that would fit between those 2 joists. Now in this image you can see that we've got the ladder in place, plus we've got the fixed ladder in behind because we had to get up above to work on it before we got the ladder fully bolted in place. And we had to build the ladder a little bit different, that it sets proud of the floor instead of flush, because I didn't want the ladder to be seen from down below, so all the mechanical works are above the floor in that little window frame that I built. And from the top looking down, that's what you see. It's a little steep, but then again, they're not the best in the world, but it's better than the flip-up hatch we used to have. So there's what it looks like when it's closed. It is flush with the floor, and there's the little pull-down rope, but we're going to fix that and change it. What we did was I got a period cast iron hook and screwed it to the ceiling that was reattached to the ladder, and I just hang a little kerosene lamp there to hide it. So then to access the secret ladder, you take the kerosene lantern down. I made a little T-handle with a hook, and you can grab hold of it and then pull it down. Now this is showing a side view of the ladder and the 2-inch rigid insulation and the plastic ceiling and the trim, so that from the bottom it looks identical to the rest of the ceiling. And on top I bought some special 3-way black pipe connectors to build a railing around the hole in the floor so you don't fall in when you're up there. There's another view, and it's still showing our pulley system with the bucket for moving small items up and down, because it's difficult to carry a lot of stuff because that's so steep. You literally need almost 2 hands to walk up it, and if your hands are full, it's a touch difficult to go up and down. Last thing we did, I put a pressure switch and tied that into the shop lights so that when you want to go up into the so-called secret room, you turn the shop lights on, and when you pull the ladder down, the switch is released and that turns the lights on in the secret room. So the next clip here is showing exactly how the ladder to the secret room works. So now you've seen our secret room and the hidden stairway to access it.